was having really bad allergies and I was blowing my nose the whole time. And I didn't edit any of it out because I thought it was funny. And a bunch of people reached out to Tay and they were like, yeah, could you tell Jake to edit out when he blows his nose because it was really annoying and hard to listen to? And I was like, well, I mean, hey, fair enough. I guess
For a while though. So
that's the point of these. Well, I figure it just sets the authentic Jake experience. It's real, it's raw. I'm blowing my nose.
Jake experience.
I'm a human too. I
Jake
figured
the experience.
I figured I'd wear a little bit of a Shaka shirt to
Not to.
yeah, I was
It's the it's the
exactly.
Jake shot.
I was
I wish I
gonna.
still had my wig.
You wish you still had what?
I wish I still had my Jake wig. Then we could have dressed the same for the podcast.
Oh, that would have been epic. Yeah, I don't have my Haileigh wig either, but that would have been so funny.
That would have been
Mhm.
so iconic.
Yeah, I'm very pro gimmicks on the pod. Like my buddy Alex and I are going to do one where we build a Lego set together, and that's the gimmick. I bought a um, it's a Lego set of the building that Peter Parker, who is Spider-Man, works at, the Daily
Yeah.
Bugle. And it's got a bunch of the Spider-Man villains, and we're just gonna build it and do a pod while we build it. And like I did the one where I got a tattoo. I don't think I showed you. Where's the belt? Other side. Sorry. There it
I'd expect nothing less, honestly.
is. Dude, sometimes I don't realize that I have it, and I'll see it in the mirror and I think there's a bug like that's going to give me a
That's
bite
how
or
I feel with
something.
that's how I feel with all my tattoos. I don't
Like,
ever see them.
I'm like, yo, what is that? I'm like, oh, that's right. It's my splat tat that I
Splat,
lost.
splat. I never got there.
Well, yeah, again, you don't need to get there. Well, hey, before we get too carried away, folks, this is my homie Haileigh. Haileigh and I worked together at OrangeTheory and Chapel Hill Metalmont, hashtag golden era.
Golden era.
And she was my studio manager and I was the head coach. And she wasn't technically my superior, but I did lean on her for a considerable chunk of my tasks, at least initially, because I wasn't sure what I was doing. And Haileigh really helped me out. And then we became homies, and here we are. So, Haileigh, thanks for coming on the pod. And I've been excited to get you on here for a while.
I'm so excited. I've been waiting for this.
I mean, Haileigh was built to be a pod guest. She's incredibly entertaining. She's smart. She's quick witted, and we're gonna have a good time today. How's that sound?
This just sounds so fun. I already told all my friends, I'm like, who's excited to see me on a podcast?
Nice, nice.
So,
Well,
tuning in
hopefully,
immediately.
yes, that's right. That's right. Well, they better be listening.
They will.
So, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about um, how we got to know each other, and then I've got some questions about your background and that sort of thing.
Yeah. How we got to know each other. That was a crazy experience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I finally got a studio, so I was promoted to manager. Um, Back in the day, I was supposed to open a brand new studio. Never, never came to light. Um,
Rip.
thanks to a massage place. It was all their fault.
Mm.
And I don't know. I feel like me and Jake hit it off immediately. We had a very good work balance where I was like, "Hey, we got to do this, this, and this today," and Jake was like, "Sick."
Dude, I'm a soldier. You just tell me where to go and I'll do
Jake's
it.
so great. If you tell him what to do, he's doing it.
I'm doing
How
it.
long it's going to take to do it, unclear, but it will get done.
That's right. Well, so tangent, but I was talking to my wife, who Haileigh knows, and I was trying because I don't talk about work too much when I'm home. I can go home and I've already had the experience, and I don't really, unless it's something crazy, then I don't really need to synthesize the experience or talk about it. But I was for the first time telling Tay how sometimes I'd be working in the office and like you and LP would be working, at the desk or whatever, and all of a sudden you would just hear me make like a dolphin noise, like and you guys would be like, "What is wrong with you?" And yeah, so there are definitely plenty of tasks that I could have done probably faster, but we had so much
Yeah, but
fun.
I was gonna say, but we have so many good stories from it. Me and LP used to just sit at the front desk. We'd be working, and then all of a sudden you'd see Jake wheel back in the door frame, wheeled back, and he'd be like, "Oh, you two are working. Sorry, you're actually doing work. I'll leave you alone." Didn't leave us alone. Continued. Like the time
Well,
you got the
listen,
batteries
listen.
in the door.
I don't stop. Okay, so I was curious to see if a battery would fit. Like the female part of a door where like the door closes in there. It seemed to have a lot of space in there. I'm like, why is there so much space in this thing? And I put a battery in there and then could never get it out. So I'm assuming that battery is still in there
It has to
unless
still be there.
someone got some tweezers or something. And,
No,
you
I'll
know,
get an update on that one.
is the battery still in there?
Hey,
Well,
still in the door.
well, you're still tight with the head coach, right, over at
Yeah,
Chapel Hill, Sid.
yeah.
So you could probably get that info. So wait, but real quick before we talk about kind of how you got to where you are now, what are you doing right now? What is your role, and where are you working at?
Yeah, so I am actually now crazy. I am the regional general manager for two Club Pilates studios in the North Shore of Massachusetts. So one's Hanover and one's Hingham, both in beautiful shopping plazas. Hingham's right across from the ocean. It's great.
Mm,
And then I also teach now too. So I also am 250 hours certified for Pilates. So it's called apprentice. And then I still have
mm.
250 to go to become comprehensive, which is when you can teach level 2 and stand and do the crazy Pilates things you probably see.
Okay, and so each of those is 250, so it would be like a 500 total hours.
500 total. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So for reference, my wife Tay, she did a 200-hour yoga cert to become like basic yoga training.
Mhm.
Okay, well that's cool. Why why Pilates?
So, why Pilates? I never thought I would be in Pilates. Let's just be honest there. I didn't see that being was not in my trajectory at all
Uh,
because I had just become an OrangeTheory coach. So I had just gotten to start to teach high intensity interval training. Um, and then after I lost my job, I was like, I don't want to work a 9 to 5. I just, I don't have that in me. I like the gym. I like boutique fitness. I like how there's always something happening. I like that people always need me at all times. It's frustrating
sure.
sometimes, but
You're
I
super
like
used.
it. So I was looking around for jobs, and actually, I did get offered a position at a yoga studio to be their manager, and it was close to my parents' house. And then I also got the opportunity for Club Pilates. And honestly, I picked Pilates simply because of the owner. She was fantastic off the bat. We immediately clicked. She automatically believed me. And day one, she was like, yeah, I eventually want a regional, and I think you would be a good fit for it. Let's get Hingham sales up and see what we can do eventually with Hanover. The yoga studio, I just didn't click with it. It's a gut feeling whether you want to work for someone or not. And I think after working for so many franchises, I wanted an owner that was involved. I wanted not a big corporation of 30 plus studios. I wanted to actually know the owner and get to work with them and help them build their business. So I think talking to both of them, Pilates stole my heart. Now, let me tell you, my first Pilates class was humbling, but
Yeah, let's hear it.
the owner threw me in. So I'd never taken a Pilates class before.
Hmm.
Reformers, for anyone who's seen a reformer, people think it's like a death trap. They're like, are you about to torture us? What is this? And I walked in and it was most people take an intro class where like you get to know what the springs are and what it does. No, I got thrown into a class. And they were like, "Okay, now put your feet in the straps." And I was like, "Do what with what?"
Mm.
Not good. First class was not good. I had zero idea. I looked like a deer in headlights, but
I took a Pilates class and it was on a similar sort of reformer style machine called the Legree.
yep,
And yeah, so I don't know if it was an intro class. I don't know. I mean, in typical Jake fashion, I just agreed
showed
because
up. Mm-hmm.
because showed up because 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 my buddy's wife is an instructor, and I was sore for 3 days after because it's like
Yeah,
such slow movement, and then you stay there and you're like pulse, pulse, slower,
I love
slower.
that's my favorite part of it. And I'm like, and little pulses, and everyone goes, ugh.
Oh
I'm
my
like,
god,
let's go,
terrible.
lady.
My legs were shaking the whole time, and yeah, it's no joke. It's no joke. So anyone who hops on any sort of machine like that, immediately I'm like respect because
Yeah.
that.
And so ours is a little different. So ours are the actual reformers that Joseph
Mhm.
Pilates
Okay,
created.
cool, nice.
So
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I want to talk a little bit more about that, but I want to talk first about what you thought you were going to do. And I know a little bit about this, but I just,
yeah.
just for the sake of the pod, you graduate from high school and you go to college. Where do you go to college and what do you start studying?
So I went to High Point University in
Where's that?
High Point, North Carolina. It's right next to Greensboro. High Point's kind of its own town. If you know anything about High Point, the president has really made that school what it is. He bought an entire street just because he didn't like the name.
Oh,
Crazy stuff. But I actually did, I got 2 degrees. I have one in criminal justice and then one in psychology.
which is just like classic go to college and then do something totally different after.
Yep.
Which one did you start first? Criminal, what's it called? Criminal
Criminal
what?
justice.
Criminal justice or psychology? Which one did you start with?
Criminal justice. I always wanted to, I watched too much SVU growing up. So I was like, oh, detective, that'll be fun.
Yes, yes. And I'd say to a certain degree, you are a detective because you can search anyone and find anything about them.
What's so funny now is that my studio owner Katie will text. She texted me the other night. She was like, "Hey, I need your FBI skills," and just gave me a first name. And I was like, "Oh, here's this, 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 and this." And she was like, "Well, you gave me what I asked for." I'm like, "You're welcome. I just need
Oh
five
my God.
minutes."
It's crazy. You'll like give everything about them, how much their house is worth, what do they do, how many kids they have. You definitely, I would say, use that degree. And what made you want to hop on the psychology train?
I took psychology in high school, and I was intrigued by it. Like, I think the human brain is so interesting when it comes to psychology. But I really focused, which is funny enough, I really liked the human sexuality part of psychology, like what
Mhm.
makes people think what. And I did a whole research project actually on sexual aggression and fraternity men and sorority women.
Hmm.
And it was so much fun. I thought it was fun, which is
What
weird to
did
say, but
what did you learn upon completing said
well, I went in
project?
thinking fraternity men were going to be more sexually aggressive, just because the stereotype. And at least at High Point, it was the women that were more sexually aggressive than the men. And
And how
I
was it
interviewed
fun?
100,
You interviewed 100 people?
50 fraternity men, 50 sorority women, so it was 100 total people.
Huh. And in what ways were the females more aggressive?
Just like with what they liked, like it was just like I don't remember the exact. This was like 8 years ago, and then I
Sure.
ended up in fitness, so a
Right.
little
Right.
rusty. I do remember that was the result. Was it was the women.
Hmm. Very interesting. And you were in a sorority yourself, yeah?
I was. I
Yeah.
was.
So when it comes to like being in a sorority, what did you find was similar to like the sorority stereotype? Like what fit the stereotype and then what didn't in your experience?
I mean, the whole thing is a stereotype for sure. So like the chanting when you walk into the house, I'm sure everyone's seen TikToks about that. We actually do that. Um, we like have practices where we line up on the stairs and we have to clap and chant and like do dress rehearsals. Um, and it is true, like during rush and recruitment and all that, you do judge people hardcore.
Sure.
That's the stereotype. But I mean, I know everyone says it's, oh, you pay for your friends, whatever, because you do pay to be in Greek life. But those are still my best friends to this day. Like one of them's getting married in September, and I just bought my bridesmaid's dress because I'm in the wedding. So
Excellent.
it's like yes, there's stereotypes. There's always going to be things wrong in a sorority, like catty mean girls. Trust me, I had my fair share.
Mhm.
Um, but it was fun. Like at the end of the day, you met so many people that you wouldn't have met otherwise unless you were in this certain sorority or fraternity.
Yeah, that makes sense. And there's some components, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like to be in a sorority, you also have to do some like philanthropic endeavors.
Yeah.
Right? You have to be involved in the community. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I was in Tri Sigma, and their philanthropy is March of Dimes. So, you know, like premature babies, we fundraise money to help the mothers, the families, the babies that are born premature. And then I also was in a chapter where we actually, so it was called the Robbie Page Memorial. And he had, I think it was polio when he was young. So there's a playroom at Duke Hospital, actually, where we as sisters got to go and play with kids in this playroom so that the parents could go have a break and like go shower, go eat, go be by themselves for like 20 minutes while we entertain the kids and take care of them. So that was really cool. I got to do that once and I cried, obviously, because that's who I am as a
Yeah,
person.
that's heavy.
Um, but it was nice to give the parents a minute to themselves to just go take a shower and get to play with the kids who are sick, and it gives them a new person too to hang out with. They see the same
Yeah,
people in the hospital every day.
sure. What do you feel like was your biggest takeaway from being in a sorority? Was it the sisterhood? Was it the philanthropic part of it? Or, when you think about that time, what stands out to you?
You know, you want to say the philanthropy, but I mean, it's just my friends. Like
Sure.
that was my whole like last 2 years of college. Um, you just think of all your friends, what you did as a sorority. Obviously, like you'd have different events. Like we held like this big color run, and it was so fun every single year, just throwing color at people. Like just when I think of it, I think of all my friends, like what we did together, these sorority events, like the pool parties, the just being all together, and even recruitment. Those are some of the fun. It's miserable. You're up until 3 a.m. looking at pictures of girls saying yes or no with a little popsicle stick, but
Hmm.
I wouldn't have changed it. I wouldn't have dropped it. I wouldn't have done anything else.
Good. Well, that's great. I mean, that's what you want from life decisions. If someone were thinking about joining a sorority, but they were on the fence, what would you tell them, and how would you guide their decision making process? Like pros and cons for being in a sorority, if it's for them or if it's not for them.
I mean, I would do it. The worst case scenario is before initiation. There's a good time period before you get initiated into the sorority. So there's different things you have to do in order to fully be initiated. So it gives you time to hang out with the girls, do things, figure out if you actually like the sorority. And the recruitment process is scary, I'm not going to lie. I did get dropped when I rushed the first time. I fully got dropped. I got an envelope saying that I didn't get anywhere. And it wasn't because of me. It wasn't because of me. I had mono my freshman year, and then it was rush right after. So my grades weren't the best. And you need a certain GPA to be in a sorority. So that's also
Uh,
another stereotype, like, oh, sorority girls are whoop, dumb, no brain, whatever. No, you have to maintain a GPA, a minimum GPA. And if you are under that, you're at risk of getting sent to like ours was called honor council, others are called standards, but you need to maintain a certain GPA. So it's not like they let you slip by the cracks or anything. But I always recommend rushing, even if there's two that you don't like, rush them anyways. Tri Sigma wasn't my first pick. Looking back, I don't know why it wasn't, but it all works out for the best. And it
Nice.
helps you meet so many people that you wouldn't have met, people through other people. I always recommend rushing. Yeah, there are cons. There can be mean girls, whatever. Just avoid them. There's mean girls everywhere.
Yeah, I think that's true just about any sort of organization, club,
Yeah, there's
workplace.
so many people.
Yeah. Yeah. People slip through the cracks and, misbehave or are rude or whatever. And you're never going to escape that no matter where you go. You just got to
Never.
deal with it. So, would you say one of the big benefits of being in a sorority was network building and having just an opportunity to meet a bunch of new people?
Yeah, 100%. Because then you also, when you start new classes, it's like, oh, hey, I know this person, this person, this person. You're not walking into a class either where it's no one. And even if it was upperclassmen, underclassmen, everyone knew each other because High Point was a small school, like big, but small to where everyone knew each other. So being in a sorority, you knew everyone. So it was
Gotcha.
nice to like even have one person in a class, or you're going to get food and you see that one person, you feel less awkward.
Okay, sure. And you feel like, I mean, I don't know, maybe this happened to you or maybe it happens to other people in the sorority, but do you feel like once you graduate, that network is useful, whether it's, you know, finding a job or volunteer work or whatever? Do you think that that is a benefit of being in a sorority as well, post
Yeah.
college?
I mean, I would absolutely, I still have a bunch of them on LinkedIn. And it's fun, like, oh, someone's looking for a job, someone's looking to hire someone. It's cool to see what everyone's doing too.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. So I obviously was not in a fraternity or in Greek life, as you're well aware. Um, I briefly entertained the idea my freshman year. My buddy had brought to me. He's like, "Hey, look, we should go. What is it when you're not rush, but before then? Is it, or maybe it is rush when you try out all the
Yeah.
different? That's what it is when you're trying them all
It's
out.
like speed dating different houses. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He wanted to do that to see if we could get some free cigars out of it, and I thought about that. I thought about that, and then I got really scared. I was like, ugh, I don't know. I don't want to be to the point you were saying, like, I don't know if I want to be judged and da 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 da. Because
Yeah.
I knew I wasn't going to do it. Um, so we ended up not. But to your point, or one of the reasons I brought up the network is because when I graduated and I did 5 years, and I didn't know when I went to college what I was going to graduate with, and I didn't really know up until like the day before my senior year of college what major I was going to end up in. And when I finished, I had a network, but all the people in my major, it was like I graduated with outdoor rec and ed, and I didn't necessarily want to be in any of the jobs that had to do with that. Not, it wasn't that I didn't want it, but I still just didn't know. And I felt like I had almost no network to fall back on outside of people in my major. And
Yeah.
I could see how being in Greek life would be a benefit of that, where you graduate and maybe you're not sure what you want to do, but you have this backing of people who all had a bunch of different majors, and
Hmm.
you have the backing of people who have, graduated 10 years ago who still keep track of their specific fraternity or sorority, and you kind of have that to fall back on. So I think as like as a post college advantage, if you're on the fence about Greek life, that could be a benefit to consider. I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah.
I agree.
Nice. Nice. So you graduate, what year did you graduate in?
2019.
Okay. So
So
yeah.
the
I'm 2
year
years older
before
than you.
COVID. I was the last year before COVID.
And how old are you now?
27.
Whoa. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So you have a year before COVID. What are you doing that year?
it was the biggest struggle of my life trying to find a job. And I don't think people realize that because post-COVID, I mean, there's jobs out there. People are looking for people to hire. But the grind I went through after I graduated in May of 2019 trying to find a job was actually crazy. I was emailing. I thought I wanted to work in a DA's office. I didn't know. I emailed every single DA in the state of North Carolina. So shout out if you watch this, DAs of North Carolina. None of them responded to me. So loved that. There was like, I sent out like 55 emails, no responses. And it got to the point where, well, I mean, I was thinking about being in the Secret Service. I was interviewing with them for quite some time. And then I realized at the ripe age of 21, I wasn't ready to move to DC and be on call 24/7 by myself. As soon as they were like, yeah, if you don't pick up twice, you get in trouble. And I'm like, my phone's permanently on Do Not Disturb. I'm scared. So then from there, I told them I was out. But then from there, my dad kind of was like, hey, you need to do something, anything at this point. And that's when he was like, you got to do something. You just kind of can't sit around all day. So that's when I applied to OrangeTheory. And I actually got hired. It's actually in Hanover up here. And I got hired to be a pre-sales sales associate. So the studio was not open yet. We were just in pre-sales. I was working where the construction was happening. So the electricians were there. Like, it was just nothing. And we were selling memberships. So that's where I went after graduation.
What made you choose OrangeTheory? Was it just what was available at the time, or what was the initial
I simply just needed a job at that point. And they were willing to hire me and pay me commission. So I was in.
Nice. And so how long were you doing pre-sales before the studio opened?
I would say about a month and a half. I started in August and the studio opened, I think, mid-September.
Okay.
I want to say.
Explain the premise of pre-sales for folks who don't know, like when it comes to opening a gym or something like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, OrangeTheory alone, you needed 250 members to even open your doors per corporate standards. So you need 250 members before you're even allowed to open. I think things have changed post-COVID, but not sure. But you need 250. So it's a grind. Pre-sales is a grind. So we're out marketing, we're out doing tabling events. We went to a town nearby and hosted a movie night and handed out orange popsicles to kids to even get our names out there. Like, pre-sales was a grind, and it's getting the people signed up for when we open our doors. So typically there's like a week free so you can try it out, but you're already signed into your contract. So it's just making sure that you have people signed up in order to open your doors. But pre-sales for every boutique fitness is always a grind because you're trying to convince people to join a gym that simply doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge in and of itself, and I'm sure you're promising founders rates, so discounted rates to sort of reel them in.
Yep.
Nice. And so studio opens, then what?
Then from there, I fell in love with OrangeTheory. I was in love with it. I started working on getting my personal training certification because I was like, oh, being a coach would be fun. Because I was taking classes 6 times a week, I think. I was taking them with my mom. The community we built was so amazing. Like, I wanted to be there all the time. I would voluntarily work like insane hours a week just to be able to be in the community, hang out, go work out. To the point where I was going to become a coach. And as soon as I was ready to become a coach, COVID happened and we shut down. And I was like, great, well, what do I do now?
Yeah, dude, talk about throwing a wrench in everything.
Everything. And I remember I was working that day and I was the one picking up the phones like, yes, we're closed for 2 weeks. No, we're not going to freeze your membership because we're freezing everyone's. And I still have like a Snapchat recording of me picking up the phone. And I was so annoyed at that point. And I'm like, I don't know if we're shutting down. I don't know this. I don't know that. And then we were like, okay, 2 weeks, we're shutting down. And then I actually never went back to work there
Yeah.
at that
Okay.
location.
Tell me about what you did during COVID and how you got to North Carolina.
So not gonna lie, COVID was hot girl summer for me. I was technically laid off, so I was getting unemployment. So that was the tannest I've actually ever been in my entire life. That was the best summer, honestly. Sitting by my parents' pool, I read so many books. I got so tan. I had a routine. I would wake up, go to Dunkin', lay by the pool because the UV index was high, and then by 4 p.m. I was inside. But after a while of that, I was I eventually got a little bored. My heart was always in North Carolina, so I was like, well, now's the time. I've saved up so much money because we've done nothing the past few months. I started looking for jobs because I was like, I'm moving back. Like I'm Massachusetts, I'm done, I'm over it. I want to move back. So I I ended up getting offered a sales job, and I'm sure you can relate. I got a sales job and I worked it for about 2 weeks when I got to North Carolina. I moved to Raleigh. I was supposed to be, I think they said like I was supposed to be overseeing an AT&T account. Nope, I was fully one of those people that you see in like BJ's and Sam's Clubs and Target, like trying to bait and switch you to get you to upgrade your cell phone plan.
Oh yeah, that sucks.
And it was the worst time of my life
I could totally
because
see that.
you know those people don't want to be bothered. I don't want to be bothered, so yeah, it was not good. I lasted about 2.5 weeks before I was like, no, this isn't for me.
Well, to your point, whenever those people approach me, obviously I'm trying to avoid them, and they
Yeah,
know that. And so I feel like if you know what that feels like and then you go into that job, everybody
yeah.
doesn't want to talk to you. So you're like, I don't feel good about what I do because everyone in general is just trying to avoid
Yeah.
me.
I'm like, I don't even want to talk to me. Like, I'm not gonna make these people talk to me.
Right. Totally. Okay. So that was trash. I understand. And then what happens?
So then at that point, I had been interviewing with a studio. To preface, gyms opened in Massachusetts in July of 2020 again. They didn't open in North Carolina until September of 2020.
Mm.
So it was honestly a perfect time because they were looking for help. I got hired at the Raleigh Midtown location part time at first. I was
And this is
willing to
Orange
open.
Theory. This is Orange Theory again, just for audience
Yes, Orange
clarification.
Theory again. I was like, I know I love it. So if I loved it up in Massachusetts, obviously I'm going to love it somewhere else. So I ended up applying. Shout out Ellie for hiring me as part time. Quickly within, I think it was like 2 weeks, Ellie was like, hey, do you want to be the other assistant manager? And I was like, perfect, done deal. I'm in. Because that's what I wanted to do anyways. So from there, it
Nice.
just grew on, and eventually became studio manager. And then I moved back, and then I became studio director, which was head coach and studio manager um, in
Okay.
Massachusetts.
Yes. So let's expand on that. So
Yeah, we
yeah,
every position I was basically.
yeah. So you become assistant manager and then you become manager. And were you manager before you were manager at Chapel Hill? I can't remember. Or were you just ASM?
I was manager for like 4 months before I came to Chapel Hill because they promoted me to be pre-sales. And then it was every day like, oh, did we get the lease signed so I can start doing pre-sales? Did we get the lease signed? Did we get the lease signed? So
Right.
I was like a floating studio manager. Wherever they needed help, I kind of bebopped around.
Right. Because the idea was you were going to be manager of the studio that ended up never opening because of the massage
Yeah.
place that moved in. Yeah,
Yep.
that's tough. So you're assistant manager and you're this floating studio manager. What kind of experience are you getting, and how did that sort of shape your leadership style?
I think it was a very humbling experience. Basically, I was sent around to be the bad guy. Um, which was kind of hard because you jump into a role, and I at the time was so young. I was what, like 23 maybe?
You're
And
playing.
they're like, okay, like here's this studio, it's going to shambles. You need to fix it. Oh, also, we're gonna fire this person and you need to do it. And it's like I was telling people, yeah, and it's like I'm telling people at all these different studios how to do things before I can even build a relationship with them, which I think is why I'm the leader I am today, because you need to get to know people before you start changing things and telling them what to do. You can't just come in guns blazing and be like, you need to change this, 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 and this by tomorrow.
Right.
So I think it was a lot. And I can honestly say I wasn't having a good time. Um, but then that led me to Chapel Hill.
Yes. So I'm going to jump in here for a little bit. So I became head coach of the Chapel Hill studio in December of 2021. And
Mm-hmm.
Haileigh became studio manager of Chapel Hill in January.
Yeah, it was January. It was right
January.
after I got back from seeing my family.
Yeah. So a month after I become head coach, Haileigh becomes the studio manager. And obviously, the place she was at or was going to be manager of ended up falling through. So, luckily, she was able to step into the role at Chapel Hill. And I remember the first time being in the studio with you, and we were talking, and I had only been in the job about a month, if that. And I asked you what you needed from me. And luckily, your answer was the only thing that I could provide to you at the time, because I was so new at the role and I was sort of left to kind of figure things out. But the thing you said to me was, uh, I just want respect. And I was like, oh, plus I can do that because I can't do anything else at the
You're like, I
moment.
got nothing else to give you but respect right now.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And so I'm curious, what made you give that answer, and did I do a good job in giving you what you asked for? I'm
You
curious.
were, I mean, you were everything I wanted in a head coach, which was great. Like I could rely on. So that was like but I mean, what led me to that answer was I think I was bouncing around so much, and I applied to regional in that time period of becoming manager and bouncing around places to Chapel Hill. I applied to be regional, and I was given a Listen 360 review where people that I had worked with at all different studios were allowed to anonymously review me. How they got away with doing that, don't know to this day because that was crazy. But I sat in the middle of a Panera Bread and got told all these horrible things about me, how I'm an awful leader, how I'm never going to make it in this company. Um, Honestly, really bad things. Crying in the middle of a Panera was not on my bingo list that year, but it happened. And I think from there, I was just like, I just want someone to just respect me a little bit in my decisions, and that I'm in this position for a reason, and I'm not just here. Like I don't know. I think those Listen 360 reviews really got in my head, and then to come into a new studio, I'm like, great. I'm coming fresh off all these horrible things that were said about me. Let's go.
Let's go. Yeah, that can be challenging. And like you said earlier, you were put in a position where you were floating around and given the task of delivering bad news and firing people. And that's a tough task to be handed, especially so young, and especially when you don't have those relationships. You're just
Yeah,
coming in and being the bearer of bad news. And, you know, firing people is a skill set. and you only get
for
better at doing
sure.
it by doing it. And so, it's tough that that was the situation that you were handed. And so it's like, in retrospect, it's like, could I have maybe done things better? It's like, yeah, but also I was given the task of doing these things. And so it was coming your way, whether you liked it or not. And so, when you got to Chapel Hill and, you're coming fresh off of that Listen 360, you know, what was your mission in terms of okay, I'm going to take their feedback and run with it, or they got these things wrong? Like how did you take that information and apply it to what you were doing at Chapel Hill?
I mean, I think at first I was a little defensive, just as anyone would be. And I'm the first to admit how stubborn I am.
Hmm.
That's just who I am. But I think sitting back and sitting on it and looking at the different situations and how I could have responded and reacted better, I think having that timeline of a little bit of a gap between getting that review and going to Chapel Hill and knowing what I was going to walk into in Chapel Hill. I'm like, okay, I have all of these leaders right across the street from us. I can either take the feedback and get better, or I can be defensive and they can know me as being defensive. Um, and I think that's how I took it. Like, I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like, there's some things were a little, were they true? Not really. But some of it was true. And it's like, okay, how am I going to be a better leader? And how am I going to show this company I can be a better leader? Because obviously it was a conversation of, hey, like, your job's on the line if you can't fix these reviews. And if we send out another one, like, and it's still bad, like, that's kind of the end of my career. Um, so I think it was a little bit of self-reflecting, a lot of it, and figuring out what type of leader I wanted to be. And I think it helped that I had had so many leaders at that point, and I'd worked for so many that I'm like, okay, what parts of them did I like, and what didn't I like, and how can I become everything I liked?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's great. One of the cool things about you and I working together is because we're not opposites. We have a lot of similarities, sense of humor being one, and um, I think what worked with us is I almost want to say that like you were fire and I was ice, but I think you were fire and ice and I was warm and cool. Where it's like you were both extremes and I
I
was
was
like,
both extremes.
yes, you were fire and
Yep.
ice and I was warm and cool. And one of the things I never envied about your position was I feel like you were constantly having to like rationalize and justify you being in the role, whereas me being a head coach, at first I didn't really know what I was doing, and then there was a few months where like I was getting better, and then I think we really started to hit our stride both as a team and then me by myself. And I just feel like I very rarely got feedback, whereas you were just constantly getting feedback. and
Yeah.
uh, and, and I don't. I mean, I still really don't know why to this
You know,
day.
I knew why, but I mean, you're not wrong. I feel like it was always feedback. It was never, hey, you're doing this right. Good job. It was always like, hey, why aren't you doing this? And I'm like, I just sold 10 memberships. What are you talking about? Why didn't I do this? Like, hey, I actually have the lowest turnover for staff. Like, what, we're good. We're vibing. We're
Yeah,
thriving.
yeah,
Yeah, it was a lot of feedback all the time. It was never
yeah,
a good job.
yeah. It was tough. I always felt bad for you. And I got to a point where I felt like I was good at what I was doing, and I knew you were good at what you were doing. And I feel like you got there a little bit before I did, just because you did have a little bit more experience. But you were also a young leader, and I always felt like the pressure and the scrutiny that you were under was always so hardcore, especially when, for the most part, we were pretty much firing on all cylinders. And there's a reason why you and I did a hashtag golden era. I can't remember if that was when we were recording or if that was before, but we refer to that time as the golden era, and we've got a group chat with
Yeah.
some of our friends as well. But I want you to speak on what you feel like made our time at Chapel Hill a golden era, because it definitely was.
I mean, it was. There's no doubt about that. Like, that was when I think of OrangeTheory, like working for OrangeTheory, that's what I think of. Is
Oh,
when
okay.
not not that I don't forget about you too, Sydney, because I know she's gonna watch this and be like, what?
Yes,
But
it's
me
great.
and Sydney. But I just think like we had it all. And I think we set the standard. And I remember telling you this, like, it starts with me and you. And if we're
Yeah.
not good together, if we weren't good together, then the whole team wasn't good together. And I told you that from day one. I'm like, we're a team. And if we, it's like being in a relationship. Like if you disagree behind closed doors. Don't
Yeah.
bring it out to everyone else. Like, because if you bring it out to everyone else, then it trickles to the team and then it trickled down to the members. And it's like, okay, we're awful. So I remember telling you that, being like, we're one team and it starts with us. And I think it went well. I mean, I would ask you for feedback, you would ask me for feedback. We worked well together where we could both understand where each other was coming from and what each other's jobs were.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I think you were good for me because you're more type A, obviously, than I am. I'm very type B. And so I think you were good for me in terms of like sometimes being, no, Jake, like, you need to care about this. This is something you need to care about. And that's not to say that I'm someone who doesn't care. I care a lot about the members,
Yeah.
I care a lot about the staff. But certain things that I would just dismiss personality wise is not a big deal. You'd be like, no, you need to care about this. And on the other end, I feel like I was kind of more of like the talk down.
Yeah. You were like,
Okay,
there have
Haileigh.
been times that Jake talked me off a ledge where he's
Yeah,
like, oh, we're going to dial it down. We'll bring it down. We're going to be fine.
yeah. No, but I think your point about, it starts with us is totally accurate. And I also think because you and I got along and we had a good working relationship, and then we soon became very good friends,
Yeah.
that set the vibe. It's like, oh, these people like to be around each other. They work well together. And so there was a trickle down vibe. And the same could be
Yeah.
said for, our friend Lauren, and, all the other folks that worked there. You and I wanted to have a good time. And so we did.
And we
And
wanted to be like,
yeah,
we wanted to be there. We wanted to have a good time. We were so involved in our members' lives. Like, everyone knew us as like Jake and Haileigh. Like, that
yes,
was just what Meadowmont was at that point. Like, it
yeah, it was awesome. It was the best.
was so
And
fun.
I'll still message members on Instagram, like from Chapel Hill, and
Me too.
you get so involved in these people's lives, dog sitting, house sitting.
I really did a lot for members. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
I'll babysit your kids. I'll watch your house. I'll watch your dog. I'll watch your cat. What else do you want me to do?
dude, even Tay and I dog slash house set one of the members there. But yeah, I think you're exactly right. People knew that we wanted to be there, and so when staff came, they're like, "Oh, these people want to be here." Even if I don't necessarily want to be here, at least I know that these people are committed to having a good time and committed to studio performance. Me on my
Yeah.
side, you on your side, and the vibes, dude. I remember, shout out Coach Casey. I remember Casey came in one day and, she had just had a snack in the back office and she came out and she's like, guys, I just want to say the vibes the past few weeks here have just been immaculate. And, and I was just so grateful because that's all I want. If you can come here and just enjoy yourself at
Yeah.
work, then I mean, come on, and not just like goof off and enjoy yourself, but do your job and enjoy yourself.
Do
Maybe a
your
little
job
bit.
and goof off at the same
Yeah,
time.
yeah. You got to do both. Uh, then I feel like that was it. And I remember when Adriana was leaving, and I had put in, I think I'd put in my however many weeks I gave at that point, but she was like, "You guys did it. Like people are sad that you're leaving. That's good." Like, and I was like, "Oh, nice. You're right. We did make an
That,
impact here, and I
mhm.
feel good about that."
My
Which,
handwriting is still everywhere in Chapel Hill right now.
what'd you
Sydney
say?
sends me, Sydney sends me things all the time. She's like, "Oh, there's your handwriting."
Oh, that's cute. That's very sweet. Okay, so I leave Chapel Hill in June of 2023. How long are you
Hmm.
there for? And then when do you come back to Massachusetts?
I am there until December of 2023. However, I knew in October that I was going to leave. I kept it a secret for a little bit because I just didn't want people to know, and I didn't want it to be like the longest goodbye of my life.
Dude,
So I waited until convention and then told them, hey, happy last day of convention. I'm out in 2 weeks.
that's right. That's so funny. I
Yeah,
love that.
that
And
was my little special announcement.
oh my God, that's so funny. Speaking of convention, so for those of you who don't know, which is probably most, Orange Theory has a yearly convention, but
Mhm.
our franchise was so big that we got permission to do our own convention, which was great because we didn't have to go to wherever they typically host it. But the one year that Haileigh and I had convention together, we did the most. We planned matching outfits. Haileigh had this
Yeah, we
awesome,
had matching
great.
outfits.
Haileigh had this amazing silver glittery outfit. I had a silvery bow tie. It was incredible. And we have the first night of convention, and I kind of started feeling a little weird. And then the next morning, I woke up and I just felt terrible. But I drive to convention, and we're in the middle of a presentation about what I can't remember. But I
I
start to
don't
feel like
remember.
that I might lose control of my bowels in the middle of this presentation, and it's getting serious, or I might throw up. It was either or. And so I just bolt to the bathroom, and I'm in there for a while, and I'm just starting to feel progressively worse. And eventually I text Haileigh, I'm like, hey, can you bring me my backpack? I've got to bail. Like, I am unwell.
We're in the middle of a presentation too, and we weren't at the same table, so I have to get up, walk during this presentation to another table to get Jake's stuff, and everyone's like, "What are you doing? Like, is he okay?" I'm like, "Mind your own business. I'll tell you later. Like, it's fine."
Oh, it was so bad. So to this day, that's the sickest I've ever been in my life. I lost 9 pounds that
I
day,
thought it was that bad. Yeah.
both sides. But Haileigh was a real G. Anyways, the point of bringing up the matching outfits is I have this lovely photo on my phone of Haileigh in her lovely outfit, just pretending to have her arm
Pretending
around
for you. It was
me.
literally me like this, and I'm like, "Oh, me and my head coach."
Yeah, we
Yeah.
were we were super excited to be in matching outfits because it was like a casino theme, right? That
Yeah,
was
it was.
a royale sort of situation, and there was like pretend gambling or whatever, and I was really bummed that I had to miss it. But what are you gonna do? Okay, so you quit after not that convention, but the next year's convention,
Yeah.
and you moved to Massachusetts. Talk to me about what the situation in Massachusetts was like in terms of navigating jobs and all that.
Yeah, so I actually had a job lined up. I started that job January 2nd, 2024. I just moved. I was still studio manager. I just moved studios. So it was a studio up here in Braintree, Massachusetts. And I was like, oh, that's perfect. Like it was like a 35-minute drive each way. But my little brother, Charlie, went to school down the street, still does. But it was easier for me to like help my mom out and pick him up from school right there and then drive him home. So um, that's kind of how I ended up there. I stuck with Orange Theory.
Yeah, and how long were you studio manager at Orange Theory for? And then what happened in terms of you getting promoted, and then what made you switch?
Yeah. So so I was a studio manager there for a year. The last month they promoted me to studio director. So I for a while was doing the head coach role and the studio manager role. Finally, I got them to listen to me and pay me what I deserve. Um, Shout out if I can tell anyone anything, always vouch for yourself. And if they're not going to give you what you want, you got to go. So I kept vouching for myself. Finally, they said, fine, you can do this. And now I know why they decided to give me what I wanted because I got a call on a Friday night at 4:30 p.m. 4:30 in the corporate world is pretty late. Everyone usually ends around like 4 or 5 on Fridays. So I know they called me on purpose at 4:30, and it was the COO of the big franchise I worked for. And he said, "It's not good news, Haileigh." And I was like, "Great." He said, "Your studio's shutting down next Friday permanently after the 12 o'clock class. So by 1 p.m., OTF Braintree will no longer be in operation." So I was given a less than a 7-day notice. I was told, call your staff immediately or whenever you can, because we don't know when an email is going to go out to your members. So I quickly, I'm in tears at this point because I had worked for this company for so long, to just get told then, "Hey, we have no room for you." Called my staff and I'm like, "Hey guys, not good news." I started crying. They started crying and everyone's like, "What's next?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I have no," I'm like, "I was just given 7 days, so I don't know what I'm going to do." But that turned out to be probably the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Rock on. And why is that?
I'm where I am now, to be honest. I think I was unhappy in that job and I didn't know it. I fully believe I wasn't happy anymore. I mean, you could tell I wasn't working out anymore. I didn't want to teach. Like I don't think I was happy. So it kind of gave me the nudge I wanted to get out of the OrangeTheory world, which I never thought I would say. But now I'm in a place where my studio owner, shout out Katie, I love her so much. She actually tells me I'm doing a good job. She respects me.
First
She
time you've ever
respects
heard
me.
that?
Probably in a very long
Outside of
time,
me,
yes.
outside of me, obviously.
Except for when it was you, except for when it was Sydney, like I actually am getting told by an owner that I'm doing a good job and making an impact, and it's showing in my work. And my classes are waitlisted. My members are starting to really like me. So all my classes are waitlisted because I only teach 5 a week because I'm in 7 million different places. But I'm a lot happier now in the role that I'm in than I was in December.
That's awesome. And so, how long have you been in this new role for?
So I started January 7th, actually. So new year, new me. I was like, let's just go get a new job. So since January 7th, I've been in this role.
Nice. So, a
So
little over 3 months.
little, mm-hmm.
Do you feel like you've settled in?
Yeah, for sure. It took a little bit of getting used to at first because it's the same thing, like getting to know members and clients and staff. But the difference was I had to learn a whole new website. So it wasn't the website I'd been using for 6 years. It was like, okay, here's a brand new website that you have to learn all the ins and outs of. So that was challenging, but I think I'm finally in a stride, which feels great.
Beautiful. Yeah, you can't really ask for more than that. So, okay, so we've got your college and your work history. When you look back now, because what I'm sure you started college when you were 18, you're about to be 28 here. Um, what do you feel like has been the defining changes in your character, if you want to look at it in like a character arc? Because we know you've got main character energy. So, what what would you say? Like, how have you grown the most in the past 10 years?
I just think I grew up. Like if I think all the time if I look back at when I was 18, terrifying. I'm like, why was I acting like that? Like, I believe I am the main character in all aspects of my life, which is fine. I admit it. It's just who I am, and you either love me for it or you hate me for it, and it's fine either way. But I just think I realized that I needed to grow up. Like you can't be immature. You can't say whatever you want about people. It's not cute anymore. Not that it was ever cute, but you
Mm-hmm.
can't say certain things about people. Like you need to have respect for other people in order for them to respect you, type of deal. And I don't know when the defining moment of that was, but I think one day it just clicked and it was like, all right, it's time to grow up and be an adult.
Yeah, it's interesting because everyone, well, not everyone, if you are lucky enough to have that moment where you kind of take responsibility for your actions and recognize you need to grow up, that means something different for everyone because like I said, you're type A and
Mhm.
you're an obvious go getter. For me, it was more so along the lines of everything's chill, everything's good, da 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 da. And then I was taking no action, and all the bad things in my life were just my fault because I was doing nothing. And eventually I just
Yeah.
got to the point where I was like, okay, well, you can make some relatively minor changes and just eliminate a lot of the problems. And then if you make a few more changes, you can actually start making forward progress. And it's such a relief
Mhm.
because then you start making progress and your life starts getting better. So that was for me. I had like a couple specific moments, but you know, everyone's is different, and so if you were to, I'm gonna put you on the spot here. If you were to produce like a sound bite for just the masses in terms of you need to get your shit together, how would you phrase it?
I think that's exactly how I would phrase it. You need to get your shit together. And I think I've always been that way, but I was the polar opposite of you, where I would just always have the mindset of, okay, what's next? What's next? What am I going to do next? What's the next step? And I never think I enjoyed the step I was in because I was always thinking about what's happening next. And I'm like, no, you need to perfect, Haileigh, where you are first in order to progress on. And I think it was also realizing, like, hey, chill out. Like, you need to be in this role for a little bit more than 2 days before you can think about, okay, when am I going to get promoted to what's next? You need to earn it.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point. I've been guilty of that as well, where you get somewhere and I think it's also a good thing. Like you want to have your sights on the
Yeah.
future, so you have something to strive for. But I think it's very easy to be like, okay, what can I do to like get really good at this and then move on as quickly as possible? And that sometimes just isn't in the cards, and you
Yeah.
gotta kind of look back on what you're doing. It's like, okay, well, if I can't take that next step, what can I do in the here and now to get better at what I'm doing so that when I can take the next step, I'm even better than I am currently? Because I feel like a lot of people just, and I hate to generalize, but I feel like oftentimes people feel like they deserve something, but they don't try and get better in the
Yeah.
meantime. And then the opportunity comes up and it gets passed over them. They're like, why? It's like, well, because you weren't
Because you weren't
investing
ready.
it better. Yeah, you weren't trying to get better in the meantime. You had all this time and you just stayed the same, and other people were on the up and up. So I feel like that's pretty commonplace. How have you enjoyed being back in the Massachusetts area?
I'm actually so happy to be back. I never thought I would come back, and you know that. I'm sure you know that about me. I was very anti coming back up here just because I grew up here, and I was like, I'm never coming back. That was the best decision that I've ever made too. Like, just coming back. I mean, I think it got to a point down in North Carolina where I was severely unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
I know I was depressed. I all my friends had left, you included. I was like, none of my friends are here anymore. I'm not happy. I'm not making the money I deserve. I'm not getting respected. My family is 600 miles away. Like, I'm like, I just can't. It's just not. So shout out to Morgan, who called my mom and was like, "We got to get her out of North Carolina. Like, she's got to go home." Um,
Definitely shout
I'm
out Morgan. Definitely shout out Morgan.
we love Morgan. Madeline was also involved. Love you too, Madeline. But Morgan was the one who called my parents at 10 p.m. So
Okay. Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. I've never met these girls, but
Mhm.
yeah. Shout out to those girls because I would
Yeah,
agree. I would agree with that. Um, Tell me about what it was like growing up in Massachusetts in the sense of like there's like a lot of history in Massachusetts,
Mhm.
just it being one of the OG colonies. And I feel like people from Massachusetts have like a certain amount of history ingrained into them. Is that true?
I mean, I want to say yes, because like growing up, we have all these field trips and stuff because there's so much historical landmarks. But when you're young and you're growing up and you're in elementary school, middle school, high school, you don't really care about that stuff. Like you're just like, all right, whatever. Um, but there is history. Like we go out all the time to Plymouth, Massachusetts, where Plymouth Rock is. If anyone's ever seen Plymouth Rock, it's the most disappointing thing you've ever seen because it's a rock like this big. Um, but it's fun. But it's also like, okay, now it's about to be summer and get touristy because that's just where we grew up. But the field trips were always fun. Like we had Plymouth Plantation. It's not called Plymouth Plantation anymore. That's been
Sure.
canceled.
Sure, that went out.
Now like Pawtuckets or something. I don't even know what it's called, but it wasn't that growing up. But yeah, I mean, lots of history around, but we get so used to it that
Mm.
it's like one of those things where you're around it so much that you don't think of it. But then when you have people come visit, it's like, oh, that's so cool. And you're like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that because I've grown up around this my entire life.
Yeah, well, speaking on that, the I've only ever been to Boston once, and it was for my cousin's wedding in summer of 2014. And Boston, by the way, is awesome. It's a super easy city to navigate, even if you've never been there. I don't know why. I just felt like it's easy. It makes sense. But we got to a corner, and all of a sudden, I saw a sign. It was like, "This is where the Boston Massacre happened." And I looked
Yep.
down. They've got like this little like plaque in the sidewalk or whatever. And growing up, we were like late to the cable game. I was like a PBS kid, and there was this show on PBS called Liberty Kids. And basically,
Yep.
do you know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah. And Liberty Kids was sick because there were like these three kids or something like that, and they worked at Benjamin Franklin's printing press, and they would
Hmm.
just get involved in the various hijinks of the Revolutionary War. And so I thought the Revolutionary War was super lit. And I really thought it was cool to learn about like in fifth grade and eighth grade. And so when I came and all of a sudden I was standing where the Boston Massacre happened, I was like, oh my God, I am a part of history right now. This is so cool. And so I didn't know if you experienced any of that or if I was just one of those tourists you were talking about.
I grew up around it, so it wasn't as cool. But like if I go somewhere else, it's cool. But like I'm like, but it's fun to show my friends because where I grew up is only like 15 minutes from Plymouth, Massachusetts.
Hmm.
So Plymouth Rock is there. The Mayflower is there. So it's cool to show my friends. But like when I'm there, it's just like, oh, there's the Mayflower.
Right. You're like,
It's
okay.
another summer. Here's the Mayflower.
Yeah. I Ohio was I can't remember what state Ohio was, like the 17th or something like that. But there's just not as much history in terms of just that exciting history growing up in Ohio. So like going to Massachusetts or going to Boston, having been an Ohio kid, I was like, oh my God, this is so sweet. I'm so about it. Well, I think, although, and you know this, I've got mad beef with the license plates in North Carolina. Do you remember this?
Yeah, you do. Yes. Yeah, I do.
I had no idea until I got to North Carolina that they were claiming first in flight. I was appalled because Orville and Wilbur Wright, the inventors of the airplane, are Ohio boys. I was one of them. I can't remember which one. In a fourth grade play called Heroes of Ohio. I was one of the Wright brothers. I had a fake mustache. And I can sing Heroes of Ohio, heroes of our state, men and women heroes. Here's what made them great. What they did wasn't easy, but they had the guts to try. They helped other people, and now I'll tell you why. So I remember that from fourth grade,
Love
and
that.
I cared a lot. I cared a lot about the Wright brothers, and so when I got to North Carolina and learned that they were claiming first in flight, even though it happened at Kitty Hawk, I get that. It did happen in North Carolina, but it was Ohio boys. And so anytime I saw a North Carolina license plate that said First in Flight, I got triggered.
Yeah. Well, my favorite was when you had your North Carolina license plate on and then you still had your Ohio one on the front of the car. You're like, hey, Jake, you can't do that. You're like, what? You can't? You're like, no, that's illegal. So,
Okay. Okay. Well, to be fair, I had forgotten that I had my front license plate still on because I had replaced obviously my rear license plate with the correct license plate, and just forgot that there was one in front. So yes, I
but
was
like,
breaking the law briefly.
but quick sidebar there, do you still have the whittling stick?
No, I don't know what happened to the whittling stick.
That's so
Uh,
upset.
for
That's so
context,
upsetting.
I can't remember why Haileigh and I were at my car, but I had to explain why there was a stick in the passenger seat. I had found I had found the stick probably hiking or something with Tay, and thought, oh, this will be good to whittle with a knife, just to make it pointy. I mean, that was really it. And I don't think I ever whittled it. It just
You
that
didn't.
stick
That's correct.
sat.
But the stick was
sat.
in your car for like over a year.
Oh, for sure, for sure. You want to
Like for
know
a good
something?
while.
Oh yeah, well over a year. Probably until we moved back to Ohio. You want to know something else that's funny? Over a year ago, Tay had texted me that she was getting a migraine, and I was on my way home from something. She was like, "Hey, can you get me like an electrolyte drink?" I was like, "Okay." So I drive to the gas station, and when I pull up to park, I, for whatever reason, did not take my manual transmission out of first gear. And so I pumped the brakes and stopped and then lurched forward because I was still in first. And I slammed into the yellow pole that is in front of the parking spot at the gas station, and just severely dented the right side in front of my passenger door. And I have been driving around with that dent for over a year and just haven't
Honestly,
fixed it.
that
It
makes
tracks.
total sense. That
It
tracks
tracks.
so hard.
And I actually have the replacement piece ordered, and just haven't put it in yet. I was going to last year with some help, but the guy who was helping me, the YouTube video we watched did not go into enough detail, so we had
Perfect.
to bail because it was like 100 degrees out. And we were like, oh, let's wait for a nicer day. And then it became fall, and then it became winter, and now it's spring again. And I think we're coming up on finally replacing it. It's just been sitting in his house, not even mine. So he just
Perfect.
has this piece of my car that is going to be put on it, just sitting in his living room, and has for probably a year.
And that also makes sense. That tracks for you.
I got so much shit at work. They're like, dude, why are you looking just so sketchy driving around in your beat up ass car? And like my left side mirror also doesn't have the top of it that I haven't
Oh,
had
perfect.
since North Carolina. And
Yeah, I
so
knew that.
I am just cruising around looking mad sketchy. And
Yeah.
I actually,
You're
so that sales job that I have, or that I had, I went to a sales meeting, and the lady and I got there at the same time. And I ended up actually selling to her. It was one of two sales that I made. And afterwards, I was like, hey, did you see that dent in my car? And after I closed the sale, she was like, yeah, but I didn't want to say anything though. And I'm like, did you think I was super
you're
sketchy? She was like, well, I was a little concerned when you pulled up, but once you got out and then we started talking, I realized that you were okay. And so I was very aware of that when I was in that sales role. Of like, dude, I hope people don't see me come cruising up, because I do not look
yeah.
professional at all driving around in this thing. But
Yeah.
luckily, I'm not
You're
doing that anymore. So
yeah, well you're lucky I didn't live nearby for that because I would be shitting on you so hard.
Rightly so. Rightly so. When you think about your future, one time, I don't know if you remember this, but we were talking and you said you would one day want to be a CEO. Does that still stand?
That's still true. And what's funny is I tell that to Jeff all the time. He's every time I'm like, "Oh, I got promoted." And he's like, "Huh? Already?" And I'm like, "I told you I want to be a CEO one day, and I'm going to make that happen. I don't care
Oh, I
how old
love
I
that.
am. It's going to happen. We're still going to be a CEO one day, and then we'll remember this moment."
Awesome. Excellent. Time stamped. Haileigh's going to be a CEO. Well, good. I'm glad that's still the case. Obviously, as you evolve and stuff, I didn't know if anything had changed, but I think that is perfect for you.
I think I'm firm on that one. I don't think my mind's going to change about that one. Also, because I think how badass would it be for me to have kids and them to be like, "Oh yeah, like mom's a CEO," like killing that. That would be so great.
See, I agree with that as well. For me, the thing that I want my kids to be like, oh, that's so awesome, is I want to be an A certified skydiver. So
Okay, well, when that happens, can you take me skydiving?
I would love to take you skydiving. I've been trying to put out me being a skydiver into the universe a little bit more.
Okay.
I've
Well,
wanted
I count me in.
count you in. Okay, good,
Count me
good.
in. I want to skydive so bad.
Okay, so I went when I was 21, and it was PIMP, and I loved it, but I haven't done it since, and obviously now I've got a kid and another one on the way,
Mhm.
so it's hard to rationalize putting money down because to to be an A certified skydiver, you have to do a course and it's like 20 jumps and they teach you how to do different things each jump and then you also have to get your own pack and that can be 2 to 5 grand and probably even more so if you want super nice ones, but so it's a considerable investment. But when I think about skydiving, to me it's like pinnacle human achievement to say, oh yeah, I just jumped out of a flying Airbus and landed
Yeah.
safely on the ground. Like it's the pinnacle of possibility. So when I tell that to my kids, they're like, oh, I feel like that's proof of the concept of anything's possible. Now, obviously, there's like stipulations on that fact, but it's like, yeah, my dad jumps out of planes. Like that's badass.
And you know what? That it describes both of us as like to a T. Me, I'm like, no, I'm gonna be, and like that's gonna be badass. And you're like, no, so I'm gonna jump out of planes. That's that's just how we both are.
Exactly. Yeah. I'll be CEO of the sky. Thank you very much. I'm in charge of all the birds.
I'll be in charge of the people.
That's right. Uh huh. Uh huh. I think that makes sense. Do you have any idea of what you? I mean, now you've been in the fitness space for your adult career, so you think that's kind of you're just going to keep chasing the fitness space path?
Probably.
Nice.
Probably. I think I'm never bored. And I think that's what I like. I think I'm the type of person that if I'm not doing something new every day or something new's coming up every day, that I would be severely bored.
Yeah. Oh, I meant to ask you this, but so you've been in the fitness space now since you were 21. Um,
Mm-hmm.
What is it about the fitness space that you enjoy, and why are you
Probably
staying
the community, 100%. Um, the amount of people I've met, I'm still friends with people from when I started OrangeTheory in 2019. And I'm still friends with people now who are following me to Club Pilates. And I think it's fun. I'm such a people person and I need to be talking to people. If you put me in a room alone for 24 hours, I'd absolutely probably lose it. I'm a professional yapper for life. So I think getting to be around people and it's not like I'm working from home, it's not like I'm just working on the computer. I see people all day every day. And I get to see people's highs and I get to see people's lows and I get to help them through both. And I think that's what I love about the fitness world is it's not linear.
Yeah, 100%. And something that I would say when I was at Orange Theory, but it applies to all. all sort of fitness spaces is when you are in a group fitness class, you're in a room full of people who are all trying to get better, who are
Mhm.
investing in themselves, paying money to be in this room to try and improve themselves. And I think that is so special, regardless of what the goal is, regardless of appearance, regardless of anything. You're all in one room together, working on the same thing, and that's just to be better in some sort of health and wellness way, and whatever that goal is, depends on the individual. But it's a cool positive. It's like default positive because it's
Yeah.
about being better, and I think that is what is so cool about the group fitness space. I know you have a hard cutoff in like 15 minutes. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about? Anything you wanted to plug? Anything like that before we sort of wrap her up?
Whatever you want, Jake. What else do you got?
What else do I got? Oh,
You know I
geez.
love talk. You know I love to talk. So like if I could be doing this for 10 hours. So
The 10-hour pod. Geez, I mean, I don't have too much to say. I've been trying to figure out the balance of work life. So I stopped that sales job. I guess we'll say beginning of April, and so I've had this month, and I'm starting a new job a week from today at a company called Ohio Health,
mhm.
and I'll be an exercise physiologist, which is cool. I have
Yeah.
my orient, yeah, and so I feel like what's cool about that for me is I my major was in outdoor rec and ed, and so I feel like I have, and I'm very happy with that major, and it was a net positive for me. But I feel like I've sort of escaped that major in a positive way, and like typically people who become exercise physiologists have like an athletic trainer degree or an exercise science
Mhm.
degree or something like that, and I don't. Now I do have 3 different certifications through NASM, and I've
Yeah.
recertified them multiple times, so I do have that education. But I guess it's just cool that I was able to sort of get a job that is still in the field that I love, that is somewhat of an upgrade, and that would typically someone of a different major would get. So I feel like I've
Yeah.
been able to sort of escape the glass ceiling. But it's been weird because this past month I've had just time to work on my own things. And I was telling Tay that I have just grossly overcommitted to doing too much. Not in a bad way, because I've been, so I did that pump and run.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I did that. I've been working on making an ebook that is basically just like, my niche is sort of mid distance endurance.
Yeah.
And then pound for pound, I'm pretty strong. And so this ebook is basically like, if you boil it down, is if you want to train like Jake did for this race, here's how to do it. And so I've been working on that. And I've also been trying to get more clients just for me to make workout plans for and stuff. And I've been doing the podcast. And then we fundraising for the Kayaking the Keys for Hope is
Yeah.
ramping up again. I'm doing that for a second year. And I think it all just kind of hit me this morning. I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing a lot right now. And
Yep.
so my commitment to myself for June, when June hits, is work, pod, and then I'll have one day a week, so I'll be doing 32 hours, and then whatever handful of clients I have, and that's it. Just like pod every 2 weeks,
Yep.
and the occasional client here and there. But I'm trying to simplify, because I feel like I'm putting a lot of effort into a lot of things, and I'm only moving the needle a little bit on all of those things because I'm not as focused as I
Because you're
could be.
not fully committed to one thing. It's
Right,
everything.
right, exactly. So I'm getting really close to being done with this ebook. So once that's done, I'll feel good, and I can kind of take some pressure off myself from acquiring more clients because I'll start work next week. So that'll be
Yeah.
good. And so really just trying to prioritize fundraising. Do you think Kim would donate?
Yeah. Send it to her.
Nice. Okay. I will. I just thought about that.
Send it to
Uh,
her. Kim's so funny. My dad was mad yesterday because she got all of us Easter baskets still.
That's cute. My in-laws
And
got an Easter basket.
including Jeff. Jeff also got an Easter basket. And my dad was like, the kids are so old. Seriously? Enough. Cut it off.
Dude, I hear you. We actually we didn't do it this year, but last year we did an Easter egg hunt at my mom's for like me and my wife and my sister. I'm like, what are we doing here? This is embarrassing. I love it. I'm not mad about it. There was
I was
some
gonna
cool,
say I'm not mad about it.
yeah, there were some cool prizes, but I felt a little immature, if you will. The great thing, though, about having a kid who is the first grandchild on both sides is that
Mm-hmm.
both grandparents or all grandparents have just effectively sponsored Easter because they've got
True.
nothing better to do than to spoil their only grandchild.
Will their only grandchild. That's so nice.
It's so nice. And so I haven't thought about Easter at all, but June has gotten baskets, Easter eggs hunts, done all these things, and I didn't have to contribute one little bit to it. And so
That's
that's
nice.
been great. Not that I wouldn't, but I just haven't had to for this. Because last
Fair.
year, she was born, she was alive for Easter, but she was only like
Yeah.
3 months, and so can't
No,
really do
it's not
anything
like
with a 3 month old. They can barely like see 6 feet in front of them. They're like just kind of doing that thing. I loved it. It was fun, but they can't really do anything.
they don't
Now
really
it's
vibe with each other.
fun.
Now it's fun.
Oh my gosh, it's so much fun. Well, she's been walking since like November, I'd say since December. And now she's like a little person. She's got hair. She will put her hair in like a ponytail that sticks straight up.
I know
And
the pictures are so cute.
oh my gosh, it is so fun. So she just walks around like, she was picking up avocados right before I came to the library to record this with you, and she was going taco, taco, because I was going no avocado, and she's just going taco. That's all she can say. But yeah, oh my gosh, it's so much fun, and we'll have kiddo number 2 in September. So just freaking gearing up for that and getting our ducks in a row. And it's another baby girl, so it's going to be Jake and 2 girl kids with a wife, and it's almost
I always,
like Chapel
I
Hill. I was
always,
like the only dude
yeah,
except for Coach Tyler. So
I
I'm
always
used.
said you were going to be a girl dad.
Yep. Well, here it is, girl dad for the win.
I put
But
that
I'm
out
used.
there.
I I was also the only male coach at my last studio, except for one. And then I was the only male coach at the other studio that I was at as well. So I am used to being the only male. I think it forces me to put off extra testosterone. So you know what?
Yeah, that's
I'm I'm
fair.
all I'm all here for it. You got to balance out all the estrogen in the room. So when you walk in, people are like, "Oh, this guy." Never mind.
That's exactly
Bail,
what everyone says.
bail. Oh God. Okay, well, that's really all I had. We'll stop the pod and we can say goodbye off. But thanks everyone for listening. I think this is going to be episode number 30, baby. We've done 30 of these fucking
Hey,
things. So, Haileigh, do you want anyone to follow you or your studios or anything like that? You want to drop any social media plugs or anything
yeah.
anything
I mean, I don't even know what everything is. I mean, I know mine is Hales.Hamer.
Boom.
Um, and my studios, I really should know that off the top of my head. I think it's just, yeah, it's so Club Pilates Hingham, which is Hingham, so literally Hingham. And then the
Mhm.
other one is Club Pilates Hanover. I am more so on the Hingham one because that's where I teach. So that's
Nice.
mainly what I'm featured on.
Sweet. Well, if you're interested at all in learning more about Pilates, go give those socials a follow. If you're ever in the Massachusetts, or the state of Massachusetts, you want to come take some kick-ass Pilates, make sure to hit Haileigh up. But that's a wrap on this one, folks. Appreciate you. What's up, everybody? It's Jake here, Fowler and Friends. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Really means a lot to me and all of us over here at Fowler and Friends. So if you could please like, subscribe, comment, do all of that, but definitely subscribe, share the videos with your friends, and keep on supporting the channel. Thank you so much. We'll catch you on the next one. Later.